But first, Texas is now sending buses to the southern border to retrieve illegal immigrants after Governor Greg Abbott promised to bring those released in his state to Washington, D.C. Watch.
To help local officials whose communities are being overwhelmed by hordes of illegal immigrants who are being dropped off by the Biden administration. We are sending them to the United States Capitol, where the Biden administration will be able to more immediately address the needs of the people that they are allowing to come across our border.
The Texas Division of Emergency Management telling Fox News each bus has the capacity and supplies necessary to carry up to 40 migrants. As the buses head for the border, meantime, the White House admits they are giving out, get this, free smartphones to migrants in order to track them, they say. Watch this exchange between Peter Doocy and White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki.
It'd be great if anybody that wanted a free phone and a free monthly plan could get one. So is that going to be an offer for everybody or just people that walk into the country illegally?
Well, Peter, as when we talked about this the other day, what I noted to you is that we have a range of means of tracking individuals who irregularly migrate to the country in order to ensure that they are meeting their notice to appear obligations and that they are appearing in court when they should appear in court. Phones is one of them.
Sean, I don't know about you, but I swear I hope to God my 9-year-old girl is not watching this because she's been begging me for a cell phone, and now I'm afraid she might actually try to pose as an illegal immigrant to get one.
I have my 8th graders going into freshman year in high school, no phones for them. But here's what I find interesting. When you played that clip from Jen Psaki, she says a range of means of tracking individuals who irregularly come into the country, not illegally come into the country. Language matters, and they're trying to pivot on whether this is irregular or if this is illegal. But I think Greg Abbott is really smart here. He's saying, listen, if Joe Biden and Kamala Harris won't come to the southern border to see what's happening, how these open borders are destroying our communities, I'll take the border to them, and I'll send all these migrants up to Washington, D.C., so the people who implement these policies are going to see what it's like in Texas when you live with the policies in which you implement. I also think it's fascinating, too, on this point, which is with defund the police, Democrats live behind, and liberal Democrats, rich ones and wealthy ones, they live behind gated communities. They have private security. They don't live with the consequences of defunding the police. Just like here, Democrats, liberals aren't living with the consequences of open borders. This policy of bringing the migrants, the illegals, not the irregulars, to Washington, D.C. will make the policymakers in Congress and the White House see what it's like to have so many people flood into your community. Good on Greg Abbott.
Yeah, and Tommy, I mean, I think it's great that Sean just brought up the word irregular because, I mean, it's illegal. I don't know where irregular is coming into. Yeah, it's actually quite regular, quite frankly, under this administration. But take a look at the fentanyl deaths, because this is a regular thing that happens if they want to use that word. About 40 pounds of fentanyl was just seized at the southern border. That could kill 9 million people. Tommy, I mean, this is not a problem that they should be scoffing at, and this is a quite regular problem. And what are they doing about it?
Well, they're not doing much, and I think it's important when we talk about the border, we're talking about those that are coming in, and they're going to make a run on our border when Title 42 expires like we've never seen before. But what happens in these migrants and the cartels and the criminal organizations that are trafficking these people across, they well understand that if they overwhelm Border Patrol agents, they can move that fentanyl and other drugs through the border much easier. So we're talking about people, yes, that want to come over here for work, for a better life. Some maybe have valid asylum claims, but the ones that are going to be getting through, especially when Title 42 expires, are going to be the worst of the worst, the criminals, the thugs, the traffickers, those that are bringing fentanyl into our country. That's killing so many Americans. It's an issue we can't ignore. Another issue we need to talk about is the gotaways, the number of gotaways. That's the folks that are getting past Border Patrol that are not even being counted. That number is astronomically high. They really can't even estimate how many are getting through. But our Border Patrol agents right now have a very difficult job. They're essentially being told to stand down. They're glorified babysitters at this point. But good for these governors and good for these mayors that are taking action, because the Biden administration is not going to.
Yeah, 300,000 plus in this fiscal year. That is a big number. Raymond, first of all, we've heard from the vice president, her inability, obviously, to get a button on this because she was supposed to be in charge of figuring out why we have such an illegal immigration problem. She's obviously bombed at that job. So now let's go to the president. Maybe he'll handle it. But is he actually going to visit the border in order to do so? Here's Jen Psaki, who dodges the question on whether or not the president plans to visit the border. Watch.
Does the president have any plans to figure out what these small towns who are bracing for a major influx in migrants next month need by making his first ever trip to the border?
I have nothing to predict for you in terms of additional trips. The president will be traveling the country, but I don't have any more specifics for you at this point.
Okay, so was that a trick question? I'm not sure if she understood it, because it was a simple yes or no. Is Biden going to the border?
I can answer it for her. No, he's not going. Look, he's on his way to Iowa next week because his numbers are falling so precipitously, even in a place like Iowa. So the bottom line is this. We're talking about busing, or Governor Abbott is, busing these migrants out of the border cities. I've been to Brownsville and McAllen. I've been there when they drop these people off and hand them to Catholic Charities, who gets a big federal grant, hundreds of millions of dollars annually, to then process these people, give them manila envelopes, and you'll see some of the footage there. They have these manila envelopes. That's got their travel information in it, including bus tickets, airfare, and many times when I'm leaving McAllen, they're on the flights with me, and people are translating for them. So there is a pipeline that's already in place here that goes far beyond what Border Patrol is doing or not doing. The federal government has set up this very broken system to move people illegally into our country, and that has to be not only addressed but stopped. And it's tragic that Governor Abbott and the Public Safety Administration in Texas has to take this into their own hands. While, as Tommy said, our Border Patrol, they're not only babysitters, they're really the last handoff of the coyotes who are making millions moving drugs and arms and people across our borders.
I mean,
it's unconscionable.
Sean, they're not only being handed cell phones to track them. I'm sure there's other ways to track them. I mean, I do have a tracker for my car and my phone. That might work as well. But also the fact that they are actually crossing the border with COVID, because that law is just out the window. Trump had put into place the fact that you had to test whether or not you were positive or negative for COVID before you came to this country. Now you can come in with COVID and you can flee anywhere you would like. And that is why Biden's approval rating is so dismal at this point. Most voters are opposing Biden's move to end COVID border policy. 42% strongly are disapproving of his moves. What say you as to what it is that the president is doing most wrong, if you had to put it on a scale, as to why these numbers are the way they are?
Well, listen, I can't pick out one thing, Julie, because he's doing everything wrong, right? I mean, but just to go back to one point, my kids, I track them with my cell phone, right, with their cell phones. The first chance they get to get rid of their cell phone so I can stop tracking them to make sure they are where they say they're going to be, they're going to do it. And so if you've come into the country illegally, you're going to get rid of the phone and go get a phone that they can't track you with. These people aren't going to show up for hearings. Listen, if Joe Biden had a heart to fix the border, he would do it. Listen, he wants an open border policy. He's playing to the far left of his party. But I want to bring up one other point. You mentioned that 9,000, the amount of fentanyl that was seized could kill 9,000 people. Not get 9,000 people high, could kill 9,000 people. 9 million. Okay, 9 million. Even worse. But
even worse.
So you look at this. Yeah. We know that Hunter Biden has a drug addiction problem. If Hunter Biden's drugs had been laced with fentanyl and he had died, Joe Biden would have a way different view on the drugs coming across our border into our country. And I know several parents who have kids who have drug addictions that have died because their drugs have been laced with fentanyl. People are dying, and if Joe Biden had to live that, he would absolutely change policy.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
I don't wish that on him,
we're
by the
going
way.
to get more straight ahead. No, of course not. No, of course not. But I mean, it is a hard fact.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.